Hey peoples, this is another movie review of Dr. Sleep. As always, I want to say thank you for listening, that really means a lot to me. For those who actually pay attention and notice that I usually post every weekday, I did not post yesterday, and that's because I watched the movie on Netflix and they had the year wrong, and it actually came out last year instead of this year, so that threw me off. So last night I went out to the theater to watch Dr. Sleep, but I didn't get home with enough time to actually record the review, so that's what this is, and also I'll probably post another review later today just to make up for yesterday. But anyway, on to the review. Struggling with alcoholism, Dan Torrance remains traumatized by the sinister events that occurred at the Overlook Hotel when he was a child. His hope for a peaceful existence soon becomes shattered when he meets Abra, a teen who shares his extrasensory gift of the Shine. Together they form an unlikely alliance to battle the True Knot, a cult whose members try to feed off the shine of innocence to become immortal. Now I'm pretty sure most of that makes sense to people who have seen The Shining, which brings up the question, do you have to see The Shining in order to watch this movie? I did not see The Shining before watching this movie, and it didn't affect me whatsoever. Now, I did watch a video on YouTube, I can't remember who made it, but it's titled something like The Shining in 2 minutes, but it only filled in a few gaps because, of course, this movie has been in pop culture for so long that you've seen the scenes in this movie multiple times, recreated in other shows, in other movies, or seen jokes about it multiple times in media. So even if you haven't seen The Shining, you've seen a lot of the scenes from the movie in your world, I'm pretty sure of it. The video I watched titled The Shining in 2 minutes just gives you the narrative of what actually happened in the movie and fills in those small blanks. But there's only about 5 or 6 things that you really need to know going into this movie. Now, if you don't watch that video and you haven't seen The Shining, will you be lost in this movie? I don't think so, especially because the middle section of the movie, which is really the bulk of the movie, isn't that tied to The Shining. So the movie starts off with Dan as a child, still from The Shining, and then it does a time jump to around our time, and that's when the bulk of the movie actually starts. And then the end of the movie returns to the hotel. But the whole middle section is the main point of the movie, and that's what you're really watching and what you're invested in. And the only thing that connects it to The Shining is the word shining, which is these people's, for lack of a better word, magical powers, and that's about it. But anyway, my favorite part about this movie is how creative it is. The world they build and the lore they build up in this movie is amazing. I usually take mental notes when I'm in a theater and I'm watching a movie because I don't want to be there with a pen and a pad scribbling, annoying the person next to me. But at times I forgot to do that because I was so engrossed in the movie. The way they handle people with these types of powers communicating and traveling and getting into each other's minds and what their minds look like, all of that is amazing, all of that is fascinating. And again, that's because of the great concepts in this movie. And I was thinking this could actually be a TV show and I would watch it religiously because the concept is that good. And what goes hand in hand with the concept and ideas of the movie is the visuals. The visuals are the best and they start really early in the film. So when the movie opens up, there's a drone shot and they're flying over a town that has a bunch of trees, and then the camera starts to move down towards the ground past the trees, and it feels like the movie is dragging you into this world, and it sets the whole mood for the rest of the film. And along with the great concept, you have to have a great story, and this movie does a great job. I was so invested in these characters. I was invested in Dan even not have seen The Shining. The movie makes me care about this character, and I'm hoping the best for him throughout this movie. Also, you have the Abra character. She's much younger, maybe in her early teens, I believe. But she's kind of the somewhat opposite of Dan, as in the way they feel about their powers, because Dan looks at it as somewhat of a burden, where she looks at it with joy because she's like, look at these cool things I can do with these powers that I have. And of course she's like that because she's a child. Children are more optimistic, they're more happier than we are, they find joy in life. Us grown-ups are burdened with debt and sadness and 9-to-5 jobs, so we're all crotchety and upset. And Dan's been through a lot, so of course he will look at these powers as a burden. So it was nice to have that contrast of someone saying, oh look, this is a great time, this is a fun thing, come on, let's use it for good things. I like that about it. Plus she was very confident, which I loved, because that's kind of different than what we've seen when people have powers. Usually people all of a sudden get powers and they're nervous, they don't know what to do with them. They're like, oh, how do I use these? She seemed always positive in her gift, like, no, I can do this, watch me do this. I really like that part about the film. Now the story doesn't work all the time for me, but it's only a couple of moments where it becomes an issue. They do 2 time jumps in this movie, I believe, and the first one I understand because Dan was a child, you have to get him to an adult, and also the little girl was about 5 or 6 and you have to get her older to be in this movie. So it made sense that they would have to time jump that. I would have just liked a little more time watching Dan actually struggle and become a better person. We don't get that. We see him being brought into the AA meeting, but then they skip and we don't get to see him struggling to get better. I would have liked to see that. Also, I would have liked to see the girl's powers progress along as she's growing up. We don't get to see that. And that could have easily been added in this movie. The movie is 2 hours, so it is long, and you do feel the length at certain points, but they could have shaved out certain scenes. Like, there are multiple driving scenes. They could have shaved off at least a minute or two of the driving scenes and showing us more scenes of our characters growing. And also, the end of the movie seems to drag on a little bit, and that's when they return to the hotel. I think they spent too much time reaching that nostalgia factor, because it seems like the movie hits its climax and comes to a scene that could have possibly been the end, but then it continues on, and that's what makes the movie drag. But in regards to wanting to see the characters more, it's because I really enjoyed every single character in this movie. Every actor did a great job. All of the characters were captivating, even the villains. I loved all of them. I only have a few negatives in the movie. The sound effects were a little bit annoying, especially this heartbeat sound effect that was throughout the film. Also, some of the sounds led the action, which I didn't like. I wish we would have seen some of the impactful moments that the movie was about to show us before the sound played and then it showed us. It's an artistic choice that I just didn't like. And that's it. I absolutely do suggest going to see this movie. The creativity is amazing and you have so much fun, especially with the middle portion of the film. And middle sounds weird because it seems like it's a small portion, but it's the whole film. It's just that the stuff relating to The Shining is in the beginning and in the end, and that's only maybe like 10 to 20 minutes total. The middle of the movie is the bulk of the movie, and that's the best part, and it's so good. So go see it and then come back and then comment in the bottom so we can talk about it. I really enjoy that. Thank you for listening. Please continue to have a great day. God bless. I'll talk to you tomorrow.